Besides the N64 and the Super Nintendo, the PS4 is my favorite game console. And since the PS5 is coming out, I decided to take a look back at my top 10 PS4 games. Now, I'm not going off of popular opinions or which games scored the highest or won awards or all that. I'm going off of my own opinions. Just a couple of rules before we start. One, I'm only going to be covering PS4 exclusives, aka games that are only playable on the PS4. However, that does mean I'm going to have to exclude games like Yakuza 0, Detroit Become Human, and Horizon Zero Dawn because those games have been ported over to PC. Which is a shame for Horizon Zero Dawn, because I love that game. But to balance out that rule, I'm also going to be including remakes, but again, they have to be PS4 exclusives. Rule number 2. I know what a lot of people are thinking, and some people are probably already sweating bullets worried about what games are going to appear on this list. Which is why, before we start, I am going to reassure everyone that The Last of Us Part 2 is not going to be on this list. I really don't think it deserves to be on this list. Now, there might be others saying, "Oh, Flaming Gamer, you're just one of those haters, one of those trolls that hasn't even played the game yet." Well, I have played it. I bought the dang game on the day it came out, I've played it from start to finish, I've done a review on the game, I'm literally holding it in my hand. I simply just didn't like it. I admit it's a well-made game, it was just disappointing. I've played it once, back in June, and I have not played it since. And I doubt that I am ever going to play it ever again. Am I missing anything? Oh yeah, also no knack. I honestly do not get the joke. Now with all the dumb formal stuff out of the way, let's start taking a look at the awesome. Now let me explain. I said The Last of Us 2 wouldn't be making the list. The original Last of Us is still worth playing. But because of how popular it is and how much The Last of Us 2 divided the fan base, I'm just gonna put The Last of Us Remastered at number 10 so that other games can have some time in the spotlight. If there's one thing that I really like, it's stealth games. And even though it isn't as good as Metal Gear Solid 5, the stealth gameplay in The Last of Us is very good. They're very tensive and make you plan things out. Usually, in The Last of Us, it's much easier to sneak through everything rather than just rush in and kill everything. And whenever you do need to kill, the tension builds up. You need to try and get hits in before your enemies do. And whenever you get hit by a gunshot, it isn't easily brushed off like in most shooters. What I like the most about The Last of Us is the story and characters. There are a lot of built-up plot twists, and the characters are all relatable in some way, yet sometimes they're not likable. And the dynamic between Ellie and Joel is one of the best. This game is a true testament for story-driven games, and will always be remembered. Whoa there! Ellie, what are you doing? Yeah, remind me to never get on Ellie's bad side. Oh wait, that's exactly what they do in The Last of Us 2, what do you know? Last of Us 2, A+, 10 out of 10, Game of the Year, not! Before you guys let out a sigh of disappointment, you've got to admit that this game is funny in some regard. Dreams is not so much a game as it is simply a game engine, where you can make your own games, movies, or art. I haven't tried the creator yet though. I've mostly just been messing around with other things that people have made. Some were clunky, some were sort of a proof of concept, and the rest was actually pretty fun. Some people have been able to make some interesting things in Dreams. Some have even been able to recreate already existing games to some extent. They're not all good, but whatever. If you're looking for something to maybe spend some lazy time on, you can't go any further than Dreams. It's not as good as Super Mario Maker, but you can't go wrong with something this fun, yet fun-y. Aang? Why are you looking at me like that? That's kinda creepy. I'm gonna call the police if you keep that up, man. You're 12 years old. I don't think you should be doing that. You know what? Just move on to number 8 before I lose my cool. I have to thank Jacksepticeye for this one. Shadow of the Colossus is perhaps the most straightforward PS4 game I've ever played. This is a remake of a PS2 game of the same name. The plot of the game is very easy to follow. Your girlfriend is deceased, go and bring her back from the dead. It's simple, yet engaging. The game mainly consists of wandering around, no pun intended, a vast, dying land to topple giants of evil power. I like how each fight is kind of like a giant puzzle where you need to perform certain tasks to make the giants vulnerable in order to climb. However, I would have put this higher on the list if it wasn't for the clunky controls. You see this? I'm trying to move and yet I keep staggering to the slightest movement. But you look past the controls and you have a momentous game with tons of jaw-dropping moments. Plenty of these fights are visually stunning, while others are pretty dinky and funny. Hey moron! I just hit you in the face! What you gonna do about it? Whoa! Hey, what the crap did you just do? Come on! If you're willing to look past the controls, then give Shadow of the Colossus a try. It's not perfect, but it's something that I recommend every PS4 owner to try at least once. Ratchet and Clank. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Ratchet and Clank, mostly because the first experience I had with it was the freaking movie. And you know what? That movie can go to hell for all I care. And some of the things that I hated about the movie is present in the game. The voice acting is hard to take seriously, the only redeemable characters are Ratchet and Clank themselves, and Captain Quark is freaking annoying and arrogant.
Captain, it's Ratchet. We just defeated the Snaggle Beast and found out what Drek is up to.
You did? But that's impressive.
You freaking ungrateful son of a... But all bullcrap aside, the game is pretty fun. I don't think I've played a 3D platformer that handles this smoothly. It's well animated, the combat is goofy yet exciting, and the vast array of weapons and gadgets at your disposal is quite overwhelming. If I had to choose my favorite gadget, it would have to be either the pixelizer or the disco ball. This is exactly the kind of wacky, goofy humor that I enjoy to an extent. Also, you get a jetpack, and I like it. If you want to have something more wholesome and goofy, give Ratchet and Clank a shot. It's perhaps the best modern 3D platformer besides Super Mario Odyssey. Also, the hoverboard racing is the best part of the game. Woohoo! Eat my dust, suckers! Bloodborne. This game was developed by the same guys that made Dark Souls, so naturally... it's pretty hard. But the difference between this game and Dark Souls is that it's pretty freaking fun. This is the kind of game that I'm okay with having a difficult challenge, because the combat is so fluid and precise, yet very satisfying. It's also the kind of game that you learn from your mistakes and try to learn your enemy's moves to gain an advantage. For example, the first boss took me about 20 attempts to beat, whereas the second boss took me only 3 attempts. And speaking of that second boss fight, it was easily the most fun fight I've had in this game so far. It was almost as if I was fighting myself. It was so fast and satisfying that it took me 10 minutes for my heart to stop beating after I beat that fight. Despite how fun it is, this is the only game on this list that I haven't finished, and for good reason. But I am itching to go back and trudge through this game's gorgeous goth-like environments and spin attack every enemy that dares to cross my path. Okay, let's just move on to number 5 before I lose my cool. Ghost of Tsushima is the game that people have been itching for since the disappointment of The Last of Us 2. And it's safe to say that this game is exactly what everyone wanted it to be. Taking place during the 13th century invasion of Japan, this game bolsters an enormous, beautiful open world to explore while hitting towards home with a story with merit and conflict that engages the player. Its samurai combat is very expressive with choreography that looks authentic. Plus, the Typhoon Kick is freaking hilarious. Plus, this game has a grappling hook, and that is pretty cool. Aside from the main story, there's also tons of lengthy side quests to try your hand at, and tons of items and outfits to collect. Did I mention that all the different types of armor look cool? I love every single one that I've found, and I have yet to find all of them. And speaking of looking cool, I love the appeal of this game. I'm a huge fan of Japanese culture and history, and this game has both. However, it's not perfect. The only gripe I have with this game is the performance. It generally runs at 30 frames per second, but sometimes the frame rate will drop into the mid-teens sometimes, most often during cutscenes. But it hasn't crashed on me so far, so that's good. If you want a game with deep third-person sword combat, go ahead and pick this game up. It's easily one of the best games that came out this year. This might be the most obvious entry on the list. Spider-Man is freaking awesome. You gotta remember that before this, the last 3D Spider-Man game we got was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that game sucked, mostly because it had a rush to development. This game is the Spider-Man game people have been waiting for. The web swinging, the combat, the amazing graphics, the way that they kept Spidey to his quips.
Did you learn anything about his motive?
I tried, but he's not very talkative. Plus, I think he hates me. Remember our first fight? Me so young and stupid, you just stupid! Hey, Sable Agents, help! I'm being attacked by Sable Agents! Oh, wait a minute!
What were you gonna do if I didn't show up? Beg him to give up?
Yes, Gargan, that is exactly what I would have done.
Ah, like an old married couple, you two!
This whole game is a joyride from start to finish, except for the stealth sections with Mary Jane and Miles. Those were easily the weakest parts of the game, but the rest of the game is really fun. Plus, it certainly doesn't hurt that it has an original story that doesn't tie into the movies in any way. Not to mention the numerous amount of god-tier suits to collect. By the way, I love the Scarlet Spider 2 suit. That one is my favorite. And I seriously cannot wait for Spider-Man Miles Morales to come out. If you're trying to come up with an excuse not to play Spider-Man right now, well, don't even bother, because there isn't one. So go out there and be greater.
Great! More of them! Look, I may consider surrendering if you let me blare the siren on the way to lockup! Blaze Eradicate!
If this one is at number 3, then you know that the top 2 is really gonna be good. The original Persona 5 was a really good game, but comparing Persona 5 to Persona 5 Royal is like comparing a ruby to a diamond. Persona 5 Royal is a much more refined gem. It isn't an entirely different game, but more of an update, and is easily my favorite turn-based RPG to date. It has refined game mechanics, battles, boss fights, downtime activities, as well as new confidants and a new endgame dungeon. Also, there's a grappling hook. I forgot to mention that. There are so many things to do in this game. Aside from dungeon crawling, you attend school, hang out with friends, go on dates, you can take a swing at the batting cages, participate in a burger eating contest, play darts, take a frantic part-time job, or just hang around a politician all day. You know, like what all teenagers do. But I already know what the big question is. Flaming Ninja Gamer, who is your favorite girl? In the original Persona 5, it used to be Takemi, but now that Persona 5 Royal is out, my new favorite girl is the new party member, Kasumi. And for those of you shouting at your screens right now, minor spoilers ahead for people who haven't played this game yet, I know what her real name is. I have beaten this game, believe it or not, which is actually astonishing because Persona 5 is an incredibly long game. This is easily the game that I've spent the most time on for this video. And I can assure you that by the time you're watching this, I am probably already in a New Game Plus. This game is so good that I would rather spend time playing this rather than watch any actual anime. Yeah, I just said that. And I never thought that I'd say that darts in a video game is fun, but Atlas actually made darts fun in a video game.
Yes!
I'm sure nobody will dispute this one. God of War is an epic unlike any other. The story is incredibly well thought out. The combat has a satisfying weight to it, from using weapons to hand-to-hand combat, using the Leviathan axe like Thor's hammer, where you can throw it and then call it back. The Blades of Chaos make a comeback. Having Atreus around as a reliable support character with his bow, it's all perfectly weighted while not having stupid gimmicks that holster replayability. So many things in this game have been stuck in my mind. The first time I played it, I went in completely blind and my jaw dropped when the credits rolled. Plus, I've learned a couple of things. For example, never punch Kratos in the face unless you want this to happen to you.
Your brother wanted to know if you're getting enough to eat. I guess I could tell him you are.
Brock was asking about me? Was there meat on his breath? You let him touch this again.
Plus, it has those ultimate, ginormous boss fights that God of War is most known for. My only complaint is that a lot of these boss fights are copied and pasted throughout the story. But that doesn't mean that I don't look forward to fighting them.
Can you kill something that big?
See, it's very simple, Atreus. You just gotta jam this crystal into the dragon's mouth and it explodes. God of War is a momentous game with a combat system that leaves tons of room for experimentation, and a story that is astonishingly shot from one camera angle with no cuts or fades to black. It's the best game that came out in 2018, and I cannot wait for Ragnarok to come out. I admit that this is a bit of a personal choice. Don't care though. Uncharted 4 is an adventure that I will always remember. The story is absolutely incredible, while serving as a backdrop to another story at the same time. The humor is witty and sassy.
Marco! Marco what? Marco! Who's Marco? Forget it.
Are you freaking... Sam, just get with the program. The climbing mechanics are rather innovative. The combat has an infinite amount of possibilities. Let's just say that this game takes The Last of Us and freaking suplexes the gun out of its hands, while also throwing out a grappling hook. Seriously, every game should have a grappling hook. And every face in this game is memorable. You've got Nathan Drake, Sam Drake, Elena, Sully, Rafe, Nadine, and of course, you can't forget the guy in the Madagascar market that sold Nate a compass for $300. Forget Rafe, this dude is the true bad guy. Uncharted 4 is the game that every PS4 owner should have. It's this game that made me want to get a PS4 in the first place. You thought The Last of Us Part 2 is Naughty Dog's best game? Well, you'd better think twice on that. turn the difficulty up to crushing, and you've got one of the most challenging cover-based third-person shooters out there. Yet it's the biggest game changer for the franchise since Uncharted 2. Therefore, it has my recommendation as the best game of the PS4 era. Phew, well, that was a ride, and this was a good excuse to play all of these amazing games again. Do you guys have a favorite PS4 game? Let me know in the comments. Should I have included The Last of Us Part 2, even though I really didn't want to? Let me know. I know that there are people out there that actually like the game, so let me know even though you're wrong. Now, I know what a few other people are probably going to be asking. Flaming Ninja Gamer, are you going to be doing a top 10 Xbox One games video? No. Because the Xbox One is not good. I will always be a PlayStation guy.